That's why I read Am I the Assholes on Reddit.
Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video, I'm going to be doing an author taste test of B.A. Paris. Alright, so before we get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments, have you read from this author? Do you enjoy her? Do you hate her? Let's talk about it. So if you're new here, I give an author 2 tries. If I don't like 2 books, chances are I'm not reading anything else from them. So with that, I created this author taste test series on my channel where I have to have 2 books from an author on my TBR, and I try those 2 books out to decide whether or not I will be reading more from them. Today, I am focusing on B.A. Paris, who is a fairly popular thriller author. I think this was actually the first book I heard about from them behind closed doors. Around when I joined booktube, this was everywhere. I feel like everybody was reading it. I have kind of been falling out with mystery thrillers lately, which is such a shame because I used to say mysteries were my favorite genre, but nowadays not so much, unfortunately. However, recently a family friend gave me some books from her shelves that she thought I would enjoy, which included 2 of Paris's works. So I figured this is the perfect time for me to film one of these videos. So starting out with Behind Closed Doors, this is following a married couple who seem to have the absolute perfect marriage. Under closer inspection, it looks like things might not be quite so perfect. I don't want to know too much more going into this one, but it does look like Grace never answers the phone. She never seems to be available to meet for coffee. However, she doesn't work. She cooks elaborate meals, but always manages to remain so thin. And she also never seems to take anything with her when she leaves the house. Definitely sounds like an unsettling domestic thriller. As I said, this has had a lot of hype. I've seen a lot of 5-star reviews of it, so I'm really excited to finally get around to it. Then on the opposite side, I have The Breakdown, which I actually hadn't heard anybody else talk about it until this family friend gave it to me. But we're following this woman who ends up returning home late one night, and she comes across this woman who is stuck in her car, and though she considers getting out to help, the woman seems totally fine. She doesn't seem to be scared or in any trouble, so our main character is like, okay, well, maybe all's well, and ends up leaving her there. However, next day, turns out something terrible happened to that woman. Now our main character is filled with guilt, and unfortunately, it seems like she is actually starting to lose her own grip on reality. But no matter what she forgets, she always remembers seeing this woman that night stuck in her car. I'm really curious about this because it does seem pretty unusual. I'm not sure if it's going to be like a domestic thriller, if she's going to be like trying to figure out what happened to this woman. I'm not really sure the direction this is going to be going, but I'm very intrigued one way or another. I will talk to y'all again when I've started into one of these books.
Hey guys, so this is my last update for Behind Closed Doors, and also my first. Unfortunately, I made the decision that I'm gonna put this down. As you saw in the intro, I was nervous going into this book because in the time since I originally added this to my TBR, and then when I actually received a copy, I'd figured out that domestic thrillers aren't really for me. I get bored. I mean, I don't care that much about watching relationship drama play out in, you know, a 300-page story. That's why I read Am I the Assholes on Reddit. I don't want a drawn-out story with that sort of a setup. And that's exactly what this is. I think the tagline of this book really does tell you right from the get-go exactly what to expect. Automatically, I didn't really feel like there was any building suspense or unsettlingness because I immediately was looking for all of this stuff after, you know, just the tiny bit I knew about the book. I don't think it's a bad thing for you to assume that sort of a setup, especially off of like the marketing, but when it's immediately obvious in the story itself, that's kind of where I have an issue because there's no build-up. It's just immediate red flags. Then we alternate to the past timeline. We begin to see how this perfect couple met and how they came together, how they reached this point, and it just honestly didn't really make sense to me. So we're told that our female main character, Grace, is the primary caregiver for her little sister, Molly, I think, who has Down syndrome. And Grace has been her caregiver from a very early time in her life. She has always loved Molly the most and just wants to do everything she can to take care of her. She puts a lot of work into succeeding, into ensuring she has a stable life, to also give those same things to her sister because she knows eventually Molly will be living with her when she's an adult. Grace is really determined. She's very strong-willed. She has some great emotional intelligence from when we see her in the past timelines. So that honestly made it very hard to believe that she ends up in the situation that we see in the present timeline. Obviously, all types of people can end up victims of intimate partner violence, but it's the way the author was handling it and presenting it that showcased it as unrealistic. Because almost immediately after these two are married, it's not a slow progression towards being this obviously abusive. It's really like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It is immediate once they are married. And it just didn't really make sense that Grace wouldn't put a stop to something. First off, they get married so fast, so quickly. From that first page, I could tell, like, okay, he just did this thing to manipulate the situation for what he wants. Grace doesn't figure that because she still sees the best of him. But even once he makes the switch, it's like she just doesn't even have any questions. She doesn't have any concerns. And some of the immediate problems are coming up around Molly, who you've just shown to us that Grace has spent so much time, so much energy into ensuring that Molly has the best life possible. So, like, why would she immediately just turn and prioritize this man she's known 6 months over her sister, who she's been taking care of for 17 years? Like, what? I think it would have been more realistic and more unsettling, more creepy to see Jack slowly peeling back the layers of his personality to reveal the person he actually is. To more do like the slowly turns up the heat on Grace. Like, it starts with little things before he develops into these really big things that we're seeing in the present timeline. But again, that's not what happened. It honestly made the story feel over the top and silly. I couldn't comprehend how this really smart, savvy woman who has managed her way into this really well-paying job that she's insanely underqualified for so that she can take care of her little sister would be ignorant enough to ignore these giant, glaring red flags that Jack immediately starts throwing up. And I'm not even talking like, oh, they're married and like now living in a house together. No, I'm talking like literally the night of their wedding, the switch flips. Annulment! Annulment! It was so obvious from the get-go that he was bad news. It was like to the point of, you know, a villain like twirling his mustache because he thinks he's so clever. He has trapped his victim into the situation that I could not take it seriously. So I ended up just becoming annoyed and putting this down at 78 pages in. I don't know if I really have any hope for the next book of this video. Hey guys, so I started into my next BA Paris book and noticed the word choice, started. This is not the halfway point. This isn't even the quarter point, but I have decided that I'm DNFing this. Unfortunately, it seems as though Paris doesn't lay out a mystery with her thrillers. Rather, she sets up a story and a crazy sequence of events, and you get to watch the characters experience all this. Unfortunately, I don't care about Paris's characters enough to watch them experience these things. And when there is an element of a mystery, I want to figure out what's going on. I don't want it to be insanely obvious like both of their books so far have been. In this one, once again, I could almost immediately tell what was happening. This got really repetitive really quickly because we're watching the main character as she's living her life. Every once in a while, she'll just like forget about something, or she'll misplace something, or she'll plan something but not remember it. And she is starting to really wonder whether or not dementia is starting to set in for her, because unfortunately her mother also had early onset dementia. But the one thing she can always remember is the one night she drove back late and she saw this woman who turned out to be her friend in a car on the side of the road, and something terrible happened to that woman. After like the third situation where something happened that she didn't remember, I immediately put all the clues together and figured out what was going on. And I just, it's frustrating to me because I can see so clearly exactly the plot that is going to take place here, just like I could with Behind Closed Doors. But again, I don't care about this character to watch her experience all this, to watch her get out of this situation. So in the end, I'm left unsatisfied and bored. I guess I would commend the author for trying to bring attention to a social issue, which I really can't go into any more specifics there because it would be considered spoilers for both of the books. But it feels like in each of the books, she just handles it in a really obvious, ham-fisted way. So if you have passing knowledge about this, you can easily figure out what's going on and put together the rest of the plot. So unfortunately, I DNF'd this. I'm officially writing this author off. Their work does not work for me, apparently. It's a real shame, especially because I had heard a lot of praise, but it was more about Behind Closed Doors. This one I hadn't really ever heard anybody else talk about, but it also has pretty positive reviews overall, and like, it's very clear that this sort of a setup is not for me. It's not my thing. I want to be invested in a mystery and like follow the clues. But instead of feeling thrilling, both of these books felt really predictable. This is a shame, but I guess at least this is an author who I can knock off my TBR. So that's something. And I guess it's also positive that I didn't actually pay for either of these books. I got them from a family friend. And on that note, that is it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have links to all of my socials as well as my Patreon in the description if you're interested. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me a window emoji in the comments. I come out videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!